Hello everyone, I'm Jed Thian. Welcome to Rugby+852. It's a new look, it's a new show. It's the same old voice, but it's a voice that you love. I know, you've told me. I've been getting the messages. Where do we start this season? I'll tell you where we start. We start at the very top. The man who took the silverware. Let's check out Hong Kong Football Club taking on the Beuzeval Welsh USRC Tigers. And who will ever forget these images from last year? Glenn Hughes slotting that golden point, and what a point it was. 100 minutes of Grand Championship Rugby Union. I don't know if there's ever been that before. If there has, they wouldn't have been at the quality of this. The club went through and took 4 titles last year. The Challenge Trophy, the Bruni Quack. It took the league in an emphatic fashion. And then this Grand Championship Trophy. There's none better. And who do they take on first up? Well, the scruffy old snagglepuss itself, the Tigers. They were bedraggled, weren't they, ladies and gentlemen? Last season, the Tigers fumbled around. They had injuries. They had no one really playing for them. They lost their skipper. They lost their strike power. They lost some loose forward ability. It was a very, very, very long season of discontent. So, last year's top versus last year's bottom in the first game of the year. It didn't start out like that at all. Check out the flying fashion of the young man that's just turned up in town, Josh Henderson. No respect. No respect for that defence. Just hits the Jets and flies right by. And that man, Herstich, doesn't make you feel good to see him running in the amber and black. And the club, they have got some very, very smart operators. And as you can see, it doesn't take them too long. That man, Rafe Morrison, where can't he play? They might have him at fullback next week. Setting it up, making them drop on defence, driving the ball through. Absolutely sensational, Morrison. And the selection by Wiggins to put him there. What can't Jack Wiggins see at the moment? He's seeing it that big. Hughes pops the cork on 3 points, and we're underway in the Premiership for 2020-21. Boots aren't hard to find, and like gunslingers in the Wild West, the Tigers have fanged out a bit of gold and got their own. Look at that, from 2 steps, 48 metres out, and still going up through the posts. Josh Hahn. Club, though, how good are they? Look at this, the Enterprise. Flying onto it, and then they're on the front foot. If it wasn't for Lawrence Miller, who is, I might add, probably a real catch. What club wouldn't be itching to have Lawrence Miller on side? But it all ended in rather typical fashion from that range. And Glenn Hughes gets the job done. And the club, well, they know their way to the line. There's Morrison. I told you there was a great selection. And then, look at that. Stop that. Right there. Hold the phone. Straight over the ball. Do you see that man? That mop of blonde hair? That's the kid himself. Rafe Morrison again. Max Denmark back from the 7s. And adding some real punch. And the club now just winding it up. Now, what's different about this shot? I'll tell you what's different about this shot. There's some attitude about this Tigers defence. There's some stoicness about this Tiger defence. It's impressive. This time last year, they would have packed it up and taken it home. But they fought tooth and nail to hold on to that front line of theirs. You can't always hold on to it forever, though. Club just slowly building it up. Axton Barrett, he'd play a pretty prominent role later in the game. But when isn't there an 80 minutes gone down in Hong Kong Rugby where he's playing that he hasn't tuned them up one way or another? Set piece was also pretty tidy for the champions. They wind one up. And the first time they clear the try line, it's courtesy of the man in pink. Yes, Craig Chan. I'll tell you what, he's looking magnificent as well this early in the season. Look at him go. Gorgeous. Back to the play at hand. Don't pull a tiger by the tail. That's the moral of the story. Josh Hurstich, you kick the ball to him, he'll run it back at you like that, and that hurts, ladies and gentlemen. That hurts in any fairy tale you like. Tigers, look at this. Henderson again. A second one from out wide, a bomb from a long way away, and you can feel toes curling all over Hong Kong watching that shot, because all of a sudden, it's just when you thought it was safe to get out of your own half, you get a kid like Henderson turn up and, well, you're 3 points down. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part we've all come to watch. Here we go. Dan Bulley doing the work on Chapman on this side. They pop Campbell Wakely. That's the old 2-3 special. You don't want to get caught in that one. No one wants to get caught in that one. And this is what I'm saying. Here it is. The attitude of this Tigers pack. It's different. But it's got to be more than different. It's got to be accurate. It's got to be meaningful. Otherwise, the best pickpocket team in town, that's right, club, it's going to have you all day long. Another beautiful read of the breakdown by the men in blue and white. And in steps the doctor. That's 3 more points. $50 gone, and up they go again, leading by 10. Tiger time. This lad, Kadu Lee, fresh from the sevens program, and he's full of vim and he's full of vigour. And I'll tell you what, they look like they have the club in trouble when 8 of them get all lined up. Hurstich leading from the back again. And now, Nate Terry, he's an attacking force, a one-man force from the back, and he can slip in. They got the dual playmakers club, and that's what makes them special when they're on attack. And you're about to find out how special they can be as well. Wood, here's Terry slipping into first receiver again, keeping the Tiger defence split because they're attacking from the middle of the field. Axton Barrett runs onto the ball from Lauder. And there we have it. That's how you score 5 points. And the Saxo club getting out to the lead. But just before the curtain is pulled, look at this. Henderson. Just help yourself to yards, my friend. And opens up the space beautifully. Big Rand on hand. He can't get any further down the line. Jevon Groves there one more time. He's like the Sandman. He's everywhere. That scrum, it's working. It's singing a happy tune. And there he is. Hurstich flicks one out the back for the little seafood. Kadu Lee. And he goes. You don't see him scoring too many tries in the Premiership. Well, that won't be the only one he scores this season, I can guarantee that. And then, well, what do you say about this one? This is the old, it's lazy, it's cheeky, it's ill-disciplined. It did earn him a card. It did cost the team 7 points. You can't smile your way out of it. I know you want to try, but you can't. The hard word coming in here from Craig Chan. Sam Purvis has got to walk. The clock's going to run up. The club's going to win. The Tigers get some respect.
Big thing for us is playing 80 minutes. We've got such a good bench, like we've said before. So grind them down, play the 80 minutes, and we know we've got enough attacking strength out wide to come away with points.
Time now to go to the stable and bring in the horse whisperer himself, Grant Beuzeval. Boozer, images of last year's Grand Championship probably wouldn't affect you at all, would they?
Don't believe everything you read in the South China Post, Jed. I don't think my comments were taken out of context when I said it hurts to see football club lifting all 3 trophies. It's truth from a Valley perspective. It's highly motivating, not just for Valley, but everybody else. So I'm back in the stable this time round. And it's good to be back on the 852 as well.
Well, let's check out the tail of the tape. Roll action.
Valley came out of the blocks with a hiss and a roar, and you can see there were players like Rob Lennox, the tight five, trying to get quickly into the game. But just a lot of errors at the beginning, but right throughout, a lot of turnovers. Kowloon did well to survive on little snippets of turnover possession there. Both sides did really. Typical early season game, I would have said, on that front.
Well, spoilers they are. And talk about conversion, though. It's about converting possession into points, though, Booze. You've got to get down there and score, boy.
Yeah, I think early on, Valley was struggling to get enough position to make line breaks, and you saw Matt Rosley kicking out of the hand a lot to get possession. I think he only passed 4 times the whole game, so field position was definitely the game plan to get down there. Some kicks through that were well chased, putting the back three of Kowloon under pressure. They were trying to build pressure from the very beginning and just couldn't convert anything to points in those early exchanges. There were no points in the early 10 minutes, I think.
And isn't that the way it goes? You play the game, you create the game, you push the tempo, and the opposition turns around and stings you for the opening points.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, there was no surety that, Valley were going to get on the board first with all that possession and territory. And if you've got guys like Harry Johnston and Jack Neville, Lewis Warner leading the charge, they were popping the ball over the top a couple of times early on, Valley scrambling back. And we've been looking at those defensive clips intensely over the last few days about mistakes in defence, which allowed Kowloon to break the line, put pressure on Valley, but backpedaling Valley back row was unable to secure some of that legally. And yeah, it was Kowloon that came away with the first 3. Harry Johnston, on debut, his first 3 points in the Saxo Markets Premiership. Bit of a settler for him, I would say.
So, I mean, at what point does it start getting frustrating if you're Matt Rosley itching to kick a goal and you're not getting the crack at it until the first 20, 30 minutes,
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd normally expect that once you get into their half and apply that amount of pressure, Kowloon are going to cough up, any opposition are going to cough up some points. Rosley's kicking range, probably about 40 metres. I think we saw later in the game, there's an option from 50 metres with a bit of a tail of wind, and he didn't take it. Kevin Field, the other kicker for Valley, he's got a season-ending injury. He was the most accurate kicker of the Premiership, I think, last season, along with Glyn Hughes. So, yeah, it was frustrating, those first 20 minutes.
It was a tough day in the midfield. They wouldn't get a lot of purchase up front, but through the tight 5, Kowloon kept their fringes nice and tight.
Yeah, real tip of the hat to the tight 5 from DAC Kowloon. Guys like Jamie Sang, who's been around for 100 years, one of the most experienced campaigners in the Premiership, making big tackles. But Konku and Bristow were tackling their hearts out. But the back row, again, Phil Whitfield, Sam Choi, and the name that we hardly read was Tom Gatsby on the day. I think it was only the second half I'd called his name. He had his head in dark places. And together with the front 5, they were really working hard on defence. Valley just couldn't get any change out of them. They threw big tight forwards at them. They threw the midfield at them, and they repelled them every time.
Finally, you came to the party in the red and black machine, courtesy of the boot. Set piece started to maybe get some grip around the half-hour mark.
Yeah, well, I think the penalty came from a scrum at that time, and when you've got Ben Higgins, Toa Kolomatangi, and in the front row, the Tigers, the national team players, something's got to happen. And new boy Luke Diwa, on debut at hooker as well, finally getting something out of Bristow and Konku and Sang, and Rosley stepping up and doing it, finally getting Valley on the board, something for all that endeavour, all that hard work.
30 minutes gone first half. Rob Lennox has already left the building, Boozer, and they were able, really, this Kowloon team, to just, fire some decent shots.
Yeah, well, the line out, it's one of the victims of early season rugby. It's all timing, confidence, and with a new hooker for Valley, Luke Dubois, you could see there was some sort of communication or just some timing issues. Lennox was off. Yeah, it wasn't going completely right. Both sides were struggling with their lineouts. You can see, in this clip particularly, that off the back there, Kowloon just living off scraps, and they really seized on that one with Harry Johnson going through the line, and they picked up 60 metres off a line out where you'd expect to be trundling it up towards the posts, at the 40-30 metre mark for Valley. So no alarm bells yet from lineouts, but certainly in this game it gifted back possession quite a bit. But I reckon it was about 50-50 if you looked at the stats on lineouts.
Despite all the darling and gnashing of teeth and the woes, we're still only talking about a 6-3 scoreline here at the moment. Just before the half, the red and black machine follows its nose and finally gets up there. I'll tell you what, it's been a great thing watching the development of this young boy Altier. He's got pace and balance. He's a real threat.
Yeah, we'll finally see a line out going right there. Muller gets one off the top, and then the pass from Duploy really brings the runners onto the ball, and then Rosley goes wide. And yes, great to see Altier getting some ball out wide. Doesn't often happen in Hong Kong with the narrow pitches, and guys like young Paul Altier neared space. That try there was very fortunate, wasn't it? The toe through, ricocheted off Jackie Neville's leg, back into Paul Altier, and then Ruan Deploy scoops up for a fortunate try.
Coming back off the 10, Booze, the dreaded yellow card. There was a few slices of cheese handed out on day one.
Yeah, it was a shame really, because they come out after the break, Valley looking to build on that 4-point lead, and Rosley nailed a penalty 8 minutes into the second half, and then momentum was all lost when Paul Theo Ralston, bit of a clumsy challenge in the air there, unnecessary, yellow carded, rightly so, and that sort of gave the impetus back to Kowloon again, and then through a bunch of phases once more. This was the first time we really saw a team put together a series of phases in the red zone. Neither team had been able to build that pressure and create something in there. And then we saw Jack Neville. Well, that's the biggest gap you'll ever see in Premiership rugby. I reckon the entire Kowloon front row could have got through that gap. Rosley was trying to come across, couldn't get out. Sayers had to stay out, and Jack Neville, well, as I said on the day, he only needs half a foot. That you can unlock a defence, but that was unlocked. The door was open, and that brought them back to level with the conversion. So game on, 13 all, about 20 minutes through that second half, and the game was very much alive.
And of course, the old seesaw, it's the old adage, isn't it? They score, and then you must at least climb into them straight after the bat. Kowloon losing focus after the score.
Yeah, that's what happens straight after school is always important, and we saw a scrum there that finally Valley got a little bit of a roll on, starting to go backwards. We saw a whole bunch of scrums down in that far corner where Valley just tried to exert pressure and couldn't get it right. The scrum was twisting every time, but there finally, and because the scrum was going slightly backwards, it sometimes gives the upper hand to the midfield if they can hit the line flat as the defensive midfield comes forward. And it was great seeing Pete Laverick there get onto a deploy pass there straight through the middle, only a couple of fingers put on him, and a good midfield partnership there was Mitch Purvis on his shoulder, beats Jackie Neville with the final pass, who was probably still celebrating his try maybe under the posts, and that was a big one off first phase. You don't often see tries in Hong Kong straight off a scrum like that, so that was kind of unique, and that would have given Fats and the crew something to really cheer about.
This is the change in character, or perhaps the rising belief in Kowloon, as they basically went after it. They went for break in that final quarter, and 10 out. It looked like they might have you sort of headed off at the pass.
Yeah, I think there was a play that started again with Harry Robertson with a kick over the top. He regathered. I think that was 2 or 3 times he unlocked the defence like that. It was very clever. They worked their way downfield and applied a massive amount of pressure until Valley was eventually penalised in the corner. It looked like Jack Neville had scored. His legs were out, but Harry Sayers was sent to the bin for Valley's second yellow of the game. So they had to see out the final 10 minutes with 14 players on, and then Kowloon hammered away with the line out and just couldn't crack it. It was a good testament to Valley's defence to see out that last 10 minutes with 14 men. Desperation stuff to not walk away with 0 points from this one.
Well, that was the scoreline, 13-20, ladies and gentlemen. Time now to switch to words from Ryan Deploy, co-captain of Valley, and a man who dishes out full credit.
Yeah, mate, the lungs are blowing. I think I'm speaking for all the boys there. Took a full 80-minute performance there from the lads. Yeah, really proud to come away with a win there. 5 points, 4 points, 7 points. Good first win up for us, thanks.
What a character that Ruan is, trying to fit as many full credits as he could. But good on him, and with Lennox out, so he's a proud man, gasping for breath there. And so at the end of that one, look, I'd say there's more questions than answers for both Valley and Kowloon, but they're off the mark. It was a tussle. That's going to put them in good stead for round two. Speaking with my Valley hat on, just glad to escape with the win.
Well, all's well that ends well for the Red and Black Machine. A win nonetheless, Booze. Who now for round two?
Yep, we're off up to Kings Park again. It's going to be hosted by Borelli Walsh USRC Tigers. They're going to host us, Gen Valley, up there on Saturday at 4 p.m. I'll be calling the game with some poor volunteer from Tigers, no doubt. Look forward to that one. Look forward to round two and bringing it to the viewers next week.
The Horse Whisperer joins us on Rugby 852. Time now for Richard Cooke to join the action, and the man they call the Sandy Bay Groper makes his way in stage left.
Hey, good to see you, Jed. Great to be here.
Well, it's wonderful to have you, Richard, and I mean all of you.
Well, yeah, what can I say?
Well, you can tell us by starting on this game of rugby on the weekend. It was a hot old affair to get out there, and it started in a fairly hot manner as well.
Absolutely. It was 31 degrees up there at Kings Park, and I've got to say though, I did feel like a frisky colt. First day of the spring being let out into the paddock. It was fantastic up there.
Well, speaking of friskiness, there was some friskiness, wasn't there, early on? I mean, always good to get your hands on the ball, but even better to get a few points straight off the bat.
Absolutely. And in that first clip there that we saw, terrible line out, which was the state of play all day. But Sandy Bay got themselves into that action really, really quickly. And typically, early season, Hamo had Scottish coming off the line really quickly, and they gave away that early penalty.
Yeah, they were thundering up, weren't they? Look, he's an interesting character, this boy Jack Meadows. He would have to be probably one of the most underrated kickers in the Premiership.
I'd say so. I mean, the last 2-3 seasons, he certainly is hitting 80-90% game on, game off. And it's only really, I guess, Glyn Hughes at a football club that holds a candle to him, to be honest.
The man who probably surprised most people, including himself, was Rory Drummond getting away to a few fine gallops early on. Now, let's remember, he's got the look of a 30-year-old, but the legs of maybe a 50-year-old. And having him charge off down the track like that is probably only going to turn him a wee bit greyer.
Yeah, I mean, he was busy right from the get-go. And I mean, it's only sort of 5 minutes in when he makes that absolutely lightning, blistering run down the touchline there. He slipped the initial tackle and was gone. But he was busy early in the game and throughout. So, drove it hard, carried the ball well. And he's according to Brian Rennie, he's dropped a few pounds over the summer, trying to signal to Craig Hammond he wants a slot in the back row. And immediately gets given the number 4 jersey. Get in the row.
As good as it got, it did there for a moment turn into what can only be described as an ongoing litany of errors. Set piece time looked absolutely. Well, I don't know if you teach schoolboys to play like that. To be fair, would have been a few hairs being pulled out. I know you don't have too many more hairs to pull out, Coggy.
No, and I think Craig Hammond is much the same. I mean, without a doubt, if you went to line-out stats, and you're talking percentages, they would have been thrown completely in the opposite direction. You'd normally be looking for 80 to 90% success rate, and I think that was the failure rate. And that went both ways on the line-out. One team would win the ball, would get a penalty, would kick to the line, and then they'd lose the line-out. So it was a real midfield arm wrestle. But it was mainly, Jack Metters just kept knocking those goals over that kept the scoreboard ticking for Sandy Bay.
The good point you bring up, that toing and throwing and the misfiring that was happening around set piece. Sure, it only alluded to a 6-3 scoreline by the 25th minute, but look, the young man from Scottish, he's electrifying and deceptively strong. He could worry a few punters if he starts finding himself in some space, and there's not a lot of it in Hong Kong Rugby pitches, as we know, but this guy looks like he can make a bit of space for himself. He's going to be a handful, Cookie.
He's kind of, for me, being an Englishman, he's sort of reminiscent of Anthony Watson in the way he plays. Keeps that fend going, keeps moving through the contact, and of course he finished off a great try for Scottish. It's easy when you catch that ball a yard out, you just got to dive over, but you've got to make sure you catch it, and he did. Fantastic from McNish, the leader. Great hands from Connor Hartley for a big man, and popped the ball, and Sal was there, dotted it down. Beautiful. The game was truncated by massive numbers of mistakes. It really did look like a round one game. As we said, line-outs, lots of things going astray. The penalty count was very high. I thought the referee, Matt Rodden, had a really, really good game. He was absolutely consistent. He laid the law down. I think at half-time, there were 16 penalties, 8 apiece. And I think towards the end of the game, things started to open up a little bit as people realised that they were going to get pinged, things like off the feet or clearing out beyond the ruck. He was really consistent and left people in no doubt as to what they could and couldn't do. So good performance from Matt Rodden.
So before the flop, you punch 3. You come out of the chute, Jack Metters fires you another 3. It's all, I guess, going along at a reasonable pace, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the key. And it was fairly obvious that Brett Wilkinson had told the team take the points when they're on offer. The historical matchups in the last couple of seasons between these two sides have been so tight. Whether it's that grand final that went down to the last play, that went on 15 to 20 phases, or last year up at the Rock when Sandy Bay were behind and in something like the 81st minute went the length from inside their 22 and Liam Sladen scored. So there's never much between the two sides, and so Wilkinson had obviously said, when we get a chance to take the points, let's take them. And Metters did. He was 100%. I think 6 from 6, and that turned out really to be the difference between the sides.
You're looking for some leadership. You're looking for someone. You're looking for the talisman. You're looking at Liam Sladen, and Liam Sladen, he's looking at the try line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this the try that he scored was absolutely sensational. It's like he's got a sixth sense, like a cat. The ball was moved, and Sullivan tried to pop it out, and Sladen was just onto it, just picked it out of his back pocket. And Liam is one of the fittest, fastest guys, and it's not the man, if you're Hong Kong Scottish, that you want to see taking the ball the other way. Everything was flowing forward for Scottish at that moment, and suddenly it was going the wrong way for him. As you say, he's a man who'll come up with a play every and any time that Sandy Bay need it. Was superb. For
the viewers at home, we had a power outage at Kings Park. It caused a few problems. It obviously meant the recording stopped. But tell us at first-hand knowledge, Richard, Alex McQueen scores one for Sandy Bay. How, when and why?
So the ball was launched forward. There's a bit of aerial ping pong. McNeish put the ball deep, and Nick Cummings fielded it, puts the ball in the air, and Sandy Bay claimed that ball coming forward onto it, probably just inside Scottish half, and the ball kind of looks like it's going to get bundled out into touch, and Slayton, yet again, he's hanging out half over the touchline, manages to drop the ball, hooks it round with his right foot, and the ball sort of just bouncing perilously into the Scottish 22, and Alex McQueen just came onto it like a shot. The ball dropped into his hands, and there it was. It was sort of 14 points from 2 tries in no time at all.
And then Scottish, well, they managed to fire back, and I think one of the pleasing things about this is this boy Coburg, and I've seen his development over the years. He's gone extraordinarily well. He's, what a talent he is. And it just adds more depth to the 9 position in Hong Kong.
Absolutely. And don't forget James Christie's to come back in a couple of weeks as well to put some pressure on that 9 jersey at Scottish. But it was, it was a superb piece of play. Nardoni took the quick tap, took 10-15 yards out of Sandy Bay while they were napping. The ball eventually finds its way into the hands of McNeish, and some real, jiggery pokery, double pump the ball, bit of an eye fake one way. And Dean Squire, the new centre, who's come over from London Scottish, ran an absolutely superb line, made the break, and was awake to the fact that Coburg was screaming up on his left shoulder, popped the ball to him nicely, and the finish, as you say, by Coburg was special.
A win's a win, and a win's exactly what they got. Let's listen to skipper, or co-skipper, I should say, Liam Sladen.
First week, we'll take the win. We always knew it was going to be scrappy, but we'll go back to the drawing board, and we've got football club next week, and that's the next task. So we'll be on it.
Enthusiasm was definitely there. Everyone was out there. We were all really looking forward to just getting back and playing rugby again. But obviously, kicking off 2 o'clock in the middle of the day, just the energy dissipated by the end of that game. I think the boys' lungs were starting to get quite heavy.
Week 1 complete for the Saxo Markets Men's Premiership of Hong Kong. The eyes of Asia watch, and top dog status still remains with club played 1. 4 points. Up next, Sandy Bay, and will that be where they stay? Let's hope, for the sake of broken radios, it doesn't happen. Let's say, stay up there, boys, stay up there. Valley in 3rd, Balloon in their 10th year and celebrating it hard. The Hong Kong Scottish, I'm sure the party has only just begun, and rounding it off, the USRC Tigers. It seems a shame that the Tigers should be sitting in 6th. 5 things we learned about the Premiership, ladies and gentlemen, and these are 5 hard facts. You can train all day, every day, but there's nothing like actually playing the game. Number 2, if you're a Tiger supporter, you are not imagining it. Yes, you missed Josh Erstich that much last season. Number 3, Rafe Morrison at inside centre. Now, has Jack Wiggins lost his mind? I mean, is this guy crazy? Is he even sane? The answer is yes. Yes, he is. Very sane indeed. Number 4, discipline. Grasshopper. Discipline. Combining, now, here's a stat that I didn't think you'd be interested in, but I am. The losing teams compared to the winning teams on the weekend suffered a lot of difference in terms of where the penalties were coming from. Now, in 3 categories combined, the losing teams conceded 12 penalties each, while the winning teams conceded 7.3 penalties on average. It's going to be an interesting stat to keep following. Thanks to Sparky Carter for that. And number 5, look, it's been said, but it needs to be said. It sort of goes without saying. but it needs to be said. How good does it feel to be playing rugby? Those are the 5 things we learned about the Premiership this week. Round 2 of the Saxo Markets Men's Premiership for Hong Kong kicks off on Saturday at 2 o'clock. And Ricardo, let me take you for a walk through the wonderful streets of round number 2. Bloomberg Hong Kong Scottish taking on Kowloon at Kings Park. Thoughts and comments?
Well, two sides looking to get their account underway. I thought Kowloon were pretty impressive against Valley on Saturday. They pushed them all the way, working really, really hard right up to the whistle to try and get the draw at 20 all, but alas, it was not to be. Scottish, massive amount of work to do this week, especially in the line-out and the scrummage. Yeah, I'd say it's going to be a tough 4-old game, but I could possibly see Kowloon just edging that one if the performance is the same as last weekend. But it's going to be...
Viewers can see that on Game of the Week. Sam Fiosi, your commentator for game number 1. Then at 3:30 from the beautiful confines of the Hong Kong Football Club, and brought to you by the silky voice of Richard Cooke, the Texas Club taking on Herbert Smith Freehills, HKU Sandy Bay, and really we just want to call them the Saints.
Yeah, I mean this is the matchup of the 2 unbeaten sides from round 1. I thought Football Club were pretty clinical and workmanlike. Not too much of the razzle-dazzle that they showed last season, but they worked hard. And let's be honest, Tigers really, really pushed them, and I don't think the score really reflected what was going on the field. So I think Wilkinson will need to really, really sharpen up on that line-out if Sandy Bay are to really make any kind of push and make Football Club work. So I'd say maybe just in the favour of Football Club on that one, and especially being back down at Sports Road where they obviously love playing in front of their home fans.
Game number 3 kicking off at 4 p.m. Back to Kings Park on the number 1 pitch. It's the Burley Walsh USRC Tigers taking on Société Générale Valley. Grant Beuzeval, the commentator. Look, it could be one-way traffic, but look, Josh Hurstich, Kadu Lee, Josh Henderson, the new boy playing at 10. He looks like he could drive these guys around the park. Valley got off to a grubby one, but they got the win nonetheless. Cookie, please take over.
Yeah, I thought that Tigers were worth a lot more than a 20-point loss to Football Club. I think it will give them a great deal of heart considering the season they had last year. I think the comment you made about Hurstich being back in there, man, he got through some work. He absolutely ploughed it, both sides of the ball, and he was up for it. And I think that's the best shape I've seen him in. As you say, Henderson there at 10, he ran the cutter really, really well. But everybody stepped up at Tigers. So, the form book would say Valley should shade it. But I tell you, if Valley are not at their best, Tigers could easily take this one, especially at Kings Park.
So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just check out those round 2 matches one more time in the Saxo Markets Men's Premiership for Hong Kong. Game 1, 2 p.m, Kings Park 1, celebrating their 10th year in the Premiership. It's Bloomberg Hong Kong Scottish. The Exiles taking on DAC Kowloon. Intriguing, very intriguing. Game 2, 3:30 p.m, live and direct from the Hong Kong Football Club on Sports Road. The Texas Club taking on Herbert Smith Freehills, HKU Sandy Bay, aka the Saints. The last one of the day, the Burley Walsh USRC Tigers taking on the Red and Black Machine on KP1. Kickoff there 4 p.m. That's it from Rugby 852 this week. On behalf of my guests, Grant Beuzeval and Richard Cooke. Thanks also to Norman Way and the man on the snipping machine, Jeff Stone. This is Jed Thian signing off. See you next week.